State of Indiana Supreme Court says no to killing the unborn. Justice Moulter wrote on behalf of the court's majority that the state has an interest in, quote, protecting prenatal life. What's your reaction?
You know, when we examine the pro-life argument, I don't think we should necessarily just do it from a religious or faith-based standpoint, especially when we're talking with our liberal friends. Science is on our side. If we found a cell, just one cell of one of these unborn children on another planet, we would have headlines saying that we have found life on other planets, but yet we can't recognize life inside the womb. And I have to be utterly disgusted when people like Kamala Harris say that because certain states are now implementing pro-life laws, her goddaughter and other people like her goddaughter are literally choosing their colleges based off of where they can get access to abortion. I don't mean this next statement as a joke. There are literally people who have more abortions than their GPA number, more number of abortions than their GPA. That is a sick statistic. And the fact of the matter is that when we were discussing this, these are unborn children. This is life. And so when every state like Indiana has wins like this in the Supreme Court, we should be celebrating it, but the work's not done.
No, it is not done. Let's go to Washington, D.C. You're outside of there. Yesterday, the White House was evacuated when U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division's officers located an unknown item in the White House complex. You won't believe what D.C. Fire EMS found. Here it is.
We have a yellow bar stating cocaine, hydrochloride.
All right, Luke. Now, Hunter Biden's been staying at the White House. Are we allowed to take that into consideration with this discovery?
I think you should be. Yeah, I think you should be allowed to ask the question. It's either one of two things. Either Hunter Biden has been visiting, or the other thing, the fact of the matter is that Washington, D.C. and around the White House is utterly disgusting. There are homeless people lying on the streets. There's people who are literally having drug overdoses on the sidewalk. You can't walk down that path without running into needles and stepping over drugs. It's not a safe place to even go down. So the question has to be raised, is Hunter Biden in the White House, or is this just a matter of fact that the D.C. Council doesn't want to do anything about the homelessness problem, the crime problem, the drug problem in Washington, D.C.? Either way, liberal policies and a liberal mentality is to blame.
All right. Now, Steve Bannon reminded viewers on the War Room about some presidential candidates that are hated by the media and lifetime politicians. Here's his comment.
The two they hate, understand the two that they hate are President Trump and Kennedy, because they are a threat to the system.
Trump and Kennedy are both a threat to the system. We had a guest on earlier that floated this, and I want to get your response. What would happen to the left and the establishment if Trump had RFK as his running mate?
First, I want to tackle the anomaly of RFK Jr. Like, where did the guy come from? He came out of nowhere and suddenly started challenging an incumbent president, and not only in challenging him, but also when he announced his candidacy, he was polling 14%, not among likely Democratic voters, but among Joe Biden's 2020 voter base. And since then, he's only gone up. And I think it's because the left has drugged the Democratic Party so far to the left that moderate Democrats are saying we're looking for an alternative. So when the question comes up as to whether or not Donald Trump would invite RFK Jr. to be his running mate, I think that would be a precedent we haven't seen in history. But I would hope that at least if RFK Jr. does decide to cross over to the Rubicon and come to the Trump campaign, that he could get a position of an advisor, because I think that he has the pulse of the moderate Democratic Party, and Trump as a populist could benefit from that knowledge.
Yeah, very interesting. It's fun to talk about, even if it wouldn't ever happen.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, I got a minute. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy read the book Boys and Men, then tweeted, "We cannot avoid the biological evolutionary differences between men and women. It's not toxic masculinity that causes men to commit 90% of murders, for instance. Both biology and thousands of years of culture have wired men differently," end quote. Murphy said the left is missing the crisis happening with men today. Do you agree?
I do agree, and I think that Murphy might be one of those Democrats who was elected a long time ago and is a little bit horrified at the direction that his party is going. I don't know what the political cost to him even coming out and tweeting this is going to be. You can be sure that he's probably going to draw a primary challenger. Someone needs to say it. I'm surprised that it's the left that's speaking out.
Yeah, it is. I think people are waking up and they're getting a backbone. It's not going to be canceled anymore. Luke Ball,
yeah.
Back to you in just a moment. Mike?
Greg, Representative Andy Biggs told Newsmax Saturday that the Biden family influence peddling scheme was the biggest political corruption scandal in U.S. history. The Arizona Republican also called out the Department of Justice and Special Counsel Jack Smith for going after former President Donald Trump with the intent of imprisonment and turning a blind eye to the Biden family's alleged corruption.
It's pretty damning stuff right now that we're seeing, and looks to be true. I mean, when you start talking about suppressing search warrants, tipping off the attorneys and the target of your investigation so they can hide evidence, you got a major problem when you have people who are not able to go forward with their investigation. They're being constrained at every level. That is not the United States of America.
Biggs also blasted the media for not covering the Biden family corruption, noting Trump and his family were investigated, but nothing was ever found.
Lindsey Graham stumped for former President Trump in his home state of South Carolina Saturday, but when the Republican took to stage.
Thanks a bunch. Well,
Graham fought the crowd's boos. His only positive moment came when he asked, how many of you believe that Donald Trump was a great president? But his most important observations may have been about the nation if Republicans don't regain the White House.
if they win in 2024, there'll be Puerto Rico and D.C. will be states for Democrats for the rest of our lifetime. They'll abolish the Electoral College. They will turn this nation upside down.
The big moment of the rally for Trump was the Rushing Brook Children's Choir from Greenville, which had been stopped from singing the national anthem in the Capitol, singing a rendition of the Star Spangled Banner that brought thousands to their feet in cheers. Tim?
Gotta love that, Fior. A harsh rebuke from Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch for Justice Sonia Sotomayor in her dissent of the 6-3 ruling in the case 303 Creative versus Atlantis. That decision said Lori Smith was not legally required to design websites for gay marriages because doing so would violate her free speech rights and Christian beliefs, despite a Colorado law that bans discrimination based on sexual orientation.
Today, I am incredibly grateful for the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling today that says that I'm free to create custom designs consistent with my beliefs without the fear of Colorado punishing me.
Sotomayor dissented from the majority along with Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. She called the ruling a new license to discriminate and said the symbolic effect of the decision is to mark gays and lesbians for second-class status. Gorsuch said Sotomayor's dissent in the case reimagines the facts from top to bottom and fails to answer the fundamental question of, can a state force someone who provides her own expressive services to abandon her conscience and speak its preferred message instead? Gorsuch went on to say the answer is tolerance, not coercion. Mike?